Hi, in today's video, we are going to study interactive buttons and on a click event of button, how to update charts. So let us start with interactive button. HTML buttons like simple button, or we can use radio buttons, checkboxes for making charts interactive or our data visualization interactive. We will associate on-click event which is fired when button is clicked. Say for example, on a click of button, we can change the data set which is associated with graph and making it responsive. Let us see an example which demonstrates the loading of new data and updating a graph based on button pressed. We will follow simple steps. First step is to prepare two different data sets. One data set will get associated with a graph on a click of first button, and second data set will get associated with same graph on a click of second button. That's why we will also require two different buttons. So we will create two buttons and we will associate click event with update function. And using an update function, on a click of button, we must change the data set. We will first remove all the previous data set elements which are associated in graph. We will bind a new data set with that graph elements, and we will add or append new elements in that graph. So these are the simple steps that we are going to follow to make our button interactive or to make our visualization more responsive. Now, when we are talking about the elements of graph, what do we mean? We are actually dealing with some of the graph elements like bars, which are actually represented with the help of rectangles, where when we are preparing a bar chart, our width of rectangle is actually corresponding to the data value which is stored inside data set. So rectangles are nothing but something which representing data values which is actually corresponding with width of a rectangle. The second, we would also like to have some labels. Say for example, what value each bar is representing and what is the data set value bar width is actually indicating. And third element is obviously optional, where we can show x and y axis, x axis and y axis, which might show range over which we are depicting or rendering a complete graph. So in an HTML section or inside body, we are going to create two different buttons, and we will associate two different functions on a click of two different buttons. So we use this button tag. Between opening and closing of the button tag, we are associating text which is needed to get displayed over the button. So first button is showing a text 2010. Similarly, second button is including a text of 2020. So basically here we are going to show bar chart of cities population. On a click of first button, it will show population of some selected cities in a year of 2010, and on a click of second button, the same bar graph is updating a data of 2020. So how it is going to get responsive? That's why we are using on-click event of a button. So on-click is a property of a button tag, and on the on-click event, we are making a call to a function that is named as ShowBar1. So ShowBar1 is using dataset 1, and similarly ShowBar2 is a function call which is associated with on-click event of second button. So this is our first step. Now within the script, we must initialize some of the variables. Say first variable is nothing but representing SVG area. That is, my area is defined as t3.selectDiv tag. That is, within div we are associating or appending new SVG tag of size, width and height of 700 pixel by 700 pixel. And obviously we have two different data sets. Each will get associated on a click of two different buttons. Now what is basically ShowBar1 function is? So there is a function which is called as ShowBar, which is a symbol of a function. Note that this notation is called as anonymous function notation. So this function is stored inside a variable ShowBar1. Now what we are going to do inside this function, from an SVG area, we are going to remove all the previous elements. So whatever the contents there were previously there in SVG area, that must get removed. That's why my area is nothing but your SVG tag. So my area dot select all rectangle. So whatever the number of rectangles are there, that must get removed. That's why we write my area dot select all rect dot remove function. It is going to erase all the rectangles from SVG area. Similarly, there were some labels which is representing different names of city and population. So they also must get removed first. That's why we are writing my area dot select all text dot remove. So all text labels that are going to get removed. Now in next step we are going to add some new bars and new text labels. So bars are nothing but set of rectangles that must get added to show a bar chart, and bar text is nothing but values of those rectangles that is representing our data. So variable bar is my area dot select all rectangle. Since there are no rectangles, because we have just removed each and every of them. Okay, so this selection will be simply an empty selection, but with this empty selection of rectangle, we are binding data with data method, and that data that is going to get bound is data1. Remember, we have two different data sets, data1 and data2. At this step, we are binding data1 variable, which is our first array. Similarly, for bar text, we are binding data from data1. So my area dot select all text, and data that is getting binded is again data1. So same data set is going to get bind with bar, that means rectangles, as well as to text also. Now after this step, we are going to call enter method. Remember, enter method is used to find out missing elements with a binded selection. Since our rectangle selection is empty and we have bound a data set which is consisting of basically 5 elements, enter method will find out that we require total 5 rectangles, and with the help of append method, those many rectangles are going to get bound. So new rectangles that are going to get appended with the help of append rect method. Now this rectangle must have some dimension. Rectangle must have x and y coordinate, that is the top left corner of rectangle, as well as it must have height and width. Now x coordinate of each and every rectangle is 50, so every rectangle will have a displacement of 50 pixels from the left. So from the left, 50 pixels displacement will be there. Now y coordinate, remember each rectangle must appear one after another. So its y displacement must be changing as per the data element. If it is the first data element, displacement must be very first. If it is second element, its displacement must be much lower than the previous one. So that's why my y coordinate is a function of data as well as index. Here data is not going to get used, we are going to make use of index. So whatever an index is there, for first element index will be 0. That's why I first add 1. So 0 plus 1 will be 1, which is multiplied by 50. So for very first element, y coordinate will be. Similarly for second element, index will be 1. So 1 plus 1 will be 2, and 2 multiplied by 50 will be 100. So for second element or second rectangle, y coordinate will be 100. And for third element it would be 150, for fourth element it would be 200, and so on. Y coordinates will be set for each and every rectangle. Now after setting y attribute, next attribute is height. We must decide what is the height of each bar. Say for example, here we are setting height of each bar must be of 30 pixel, and width. Again, width of a bar is actually representing the data. That's why it must get associated with function of data. Whatever the data value is there, it must get associated with it. So we can here simply return D, or if we want, or if we wish to have a longer bars, we can simply multiply any factor with D, so it will get multiplied. Say for example data is 10, so 10 into 10 will be 100. Width of first bar will be say 100 pixels. So width will get associated accordingly, and we are obviously filling some color, so it must get look attractive. So style filling attribute is set to value orange. So this is how we have prepared bars of graph. Similarly, we can also write bar text. So whatever the value bar is showing must get displayed over the bar. So that's why we have bar text variable, and you remember that bar text variable is also associated with data labels, and we do not have any text elements according to that data. So enter method will find out that we require 5 text elements. So with the help of append of text, we are going to add those 5 text elements. Now X attribute is function of data, because each bar must show the value over it from the endpoint. So endpoint of data is written as 50 plus data into 10 minus 20. So first of all, data into 10 will give us the endpoint of our bar, and remember bar starts from 50 from X, that's why we have added that value, and since this value will not get printed at the outside of bar, that's why we have minus sign of 20 pixel. So complete formula is this: data is multiplied with 10 plus 50 minus 20, or I can simply add 30 over here. And y coordinate is nothing but displacement from top, and that is also used to write different data over different bars which are at different location. That's why we write y is also function of data and index, and we use index as I plus 1 into 50 plus 20. So I plus 1 into 50 is nothing but the height of bar, and we need to write that text within the bar. That's why we add some more pixel to it. So this is our x and y coordinate of text, and the actual text that needs to get displayed is set with the help of text method, and that text method is function of data. We simply return D. So for whatever value of data is there, it's going to get stored inside text value. And we use one class that is called texted, and within that class I can change the styling. Say for example the height and font of text, color of text, so all those things are written inside style sheet. That's why I associate this particular text label with some class that is called as text. I'll show you what this CSS style is. And at the end I call show label method. Now what is this show label method? Show label method is going to show the legends of each and every bar. Say for example first bar is showing the population of Mumbai, second bar is showing the population of say Delhi, and so on. So all these labels are going to get shown with the help of show label method. Now see what is this texted class looks like. So within a form itself, within an HTML page, we write one CSS. So within the style tag, we write one CSS, and there is a class called texted. And some of the settings are there. Texted class is having full white. That means my text is going to appear white in color, and the size of text is in 10 pixels. So that is what texted class is. Now this is the complete code of your ShowBar1 function. Remember the thing that ShowBar1 function is making use of data 1. And similarly we are going to copy and paste same code again and call it as ShowBar2. But within that function the only change that we are going to do is associating dataset 2. And also we are changing the fill style or color of rectangle so that we can see the difference between the two graphs. So this is another code for ShowBar2 function. Now within this show label function, we have one variable that is an array cities, which consisting of 5 city values: Mumbai, Bangalore, Kolkata, Delhi and Chennai. So my area is nothing but your SVG area, and we select all city label classes. Now remember, there are no as variables or no tags which are associated with class city label. So the selection will be initially empty, and we associate data with this city labels with this variable cities. So data is associated with cities, and since there is an empty selection, while calling an enter method will identify how many city labels are required. So there are 5 elements. So enter method will tell us that 5 times append must get executed. Now with the help of append, we are actually adding new text labels. Now remember, there are 2 kinds of text labels. First text label is showing the value over the bar, and second text labels are actually showing the labels of each bar, say Mumbai, Kolkata and so on. That's why they don't get mixed with each other. That's why we are calling the new text labels as associated with some class, that is called city labels. That text method is actually function of data. We simply remember return data. So first text label will show Mumbai, second text label will show Bangalore, third Kolkata, fourth Delhi, and fifth text label will finally have Chennai. Now these text labels are actually classed with some city labels. That's why we are making use of classed method, and this class method will associate new class, that is city label, which is equal to true. So it is going to add new attribute class is equal to city label into your text. Now x and y coordinates are simply attribute x is from 10 pixels from the left, and y attribute is function of data and index. So basically we are going to make use of indices, index plus 1 into 50 plus 20, which is equal to the y coordinate of each and every label. Now let us see how basically this code works when we write them into an HTML file. This is the code for this 2 different buttons bar. As you can see, text style is some settings are there. City labels are having different colors, and paragraphs are also having some values, and we have header which is showing the web page. Let me show you web page how it looks like. As you can see, this is my page which is showing one header, that is population of some cities, and we have 2 buttons. First button is showing 2010 and 2020, and there are 2 different data set. Data set 1, which is showing some value, is associated with first button, and data 2, which is associated with second button. This is just for reference. These 2 data sets are not required to show every time. This is for just our reference. Okay, I'll simply click first button. Here, as you can see, let me zoom in. Whatever the tags that you see over the left hand side, that is Mumbai, Bangalore, Kolkata, Delhi and Chennai. So these are displayed with the help of show label method, and these are your bar variables, and these values that you are going to see that is going to get displayed over the bar is actually your bar text. Now let me show you div tag. Now this is your SVG. Now in SVG there are 5 rectangles: first, second, third, fourth and fifth. Now over this each and every rectangle there are some text, right? So first text is showing 10, second is showing 50, 30, 40 and 20, so on. And after this, as you can see, there are again 5 text labels, and they are associated with some class that is called a city label. Now they are showing Mumbai, Bangalore, Kolkata and Delhi, and finally it is calling Chennai. Yeah. So this is how your complete SVG chart is drawn for first button. Let me click second button. Now as you can see, some values over the left hand side, these rectangle x and y coordinates, their text values that text labels are going to get changed. Even though these values over the left, which is showing the city label, is not going to get changed. Okay, so the bar and bar text is going to get changed according to the data set 2. Again, when I click 2010, some values, as you can see over this side elements, some values are going to get highlighted, and those values are going to get changed over the click of button, as you can see. Okay, so the important thing over here to notice is before we draw new elements to the chart, we must remove the previous elements, then we bind the elements with the new data set which is associated with a button, and then we draw the new data set. So this is all for today. Thank you everyone for watching this video. This is Munira Tupia signing out.